Hello everyone, George DeSantis here with a look at the market for the week ending Friday, May 25th, 2018. Before we go any further, being Memorial Day today, it's appropriate for me, of course, to thank all of those people who served in the armed services of the United States and the allies. Of course, we had uncles, my family had uncles who served in the Royal Air Force, and about three or four of them were shot down, were killed in the Second World War. So we want to thank all those people who served against Nazi Germany and in Vietnam, etc., and today too. So before we begin to look at the charts, let's take a look at the disclaimer as we always do. It's important to know that this is not a video that recommends stocks for any particular person to buy, because I couldn't possibly, even if I were professional investment advisor, couldn't give you that kind of advice here, not knowing who you are and what your financial status is, etc. So it's simply for educational purposes. We haven't done this in a while, but the first chart we look at is the monthly chart of the S&P 500. And what we find here is that we see this ABCD triangle showing up on a monthly chart. It was really plotted on the daily chart, but in any case, what you could see is that this monthly chart shows us what I would think is a morning star. You have this bearish candle, you have this doji, and even an inside bar to some extent, I think. And then you have this bullish candle here. So these three candles seem to be, to me anyway, to be the formation of a bullish morning star on the monthly chart, which is very powerful, because it's a monthly chart, very long term, saying that this trend that has been down for a few months now, since January actually, since February, end of January, seems to be turning around, and we see that on the daily and the weekly charts. So let's turn to the weekly chart. Now here's a weekly chart of the S&P 500. And again, we can see that ABCD triangle, and we've broken out of the triangle ever so slightly, but we've definitely broken out of the triangle. And we can see that if we expand this chart, we can see that the yellow line, 4 EMA is above the 9, and it looks as though the 9 is about to cross above the 30 weighted moving average. So it's pretty much a setup for a continuation of a turnaround, an uptrend, where we do have parabolic still above this most recent bar, last week's bar. So we need to hit that parabolic in order to go higher. Now, Larry McMillan sends out his weekly updates on the market, and what I recall him saying is that we need to get past this 2750 resistance level, and once we do that, we're at 2721 now. Once we do that, we should see more action to the upside. So that's what we are seeing on the weekly chart here. We still have MACD trending up from below the zero line, and there is no divergence here. And then RSI 12 on the weekly chart is trending up from the 40% line, which is bullish. It means the beginning of an uptrend. Williams percentile with a 30 period broke above 50%, which is what I would always want to see if I'm buying stocks, and that is now sitting above the 50% line. And the sum of the rate of change indicator, Jerry Appel's indicator, which I mentioned to you, I plotted the formula here. It's very simple, and it's now sitting above the 4% line. So it seems to me that we're firing on all cylinders here, although we're just getting started to a new move to the upside. Notice we have a target of 3,094 to the upside here. So let's hope that all this turns out the way we anticipated. Now let's look at the daily chart. On the daily chart here, what we have is we saw that the S&P broke out and hit the upper Bollinger Band, and has since been in a trading range, pretty much a narrow trading range here. So it's working through this is consolidating this gain here within this band here. Okay, now we have parabolic below the most recent bar, Friday's bar. So parabolic on the daily chart is indicating uptrend. Okay, now we have the 9, the 4 above the 9, 9 above 30 on the daily chart. Since it broke up, since these separated at this level here, and we still have an uptrend according to the moving averages. If we look at the other indicators, RSI 12 is above the 40% line. It's at about 60 now, 59.73. We have Williams above the 50% line. We have Jerry Appel's sum of the rate of change indicator above 4%. So again, it looks pretty bullish to me. And before we leave the S&P, this weekly chart of the S&P on the Ichimoku cloud chart, we can see that the cloud is trending up on the weekly chart, and also prices above it. And if you look at the daily chart, we were below the cloud, broke out of it, and is now in that consolidation phase that we saw before. You can draw a line here and a line about here, and you can see that we have this trading range. So that's where we stand. And here's a weekly chart of the S&P on stockcharts.com, and what it shows is the indicator, the impulse indicator, where we have the bars colored green, blue, or red. We can see here that we went from red bars to blue bars. Red meaning we can't go short. We're not allowed to go long. The blue bars allowed us to go either long or short, and now the green bars forbids us from going short. We have to, if we're going to do anything, we need to be buying the market. Okay, so that's what that shows us. And let's take a look at something else. And here's a chart of the new high, new low spread index. And what we're seeing, it's continuing to remain above the 200-day average with red line and the 50-day average. So that augurs well for the future. And it's above 500, which is a key level. So the new high, new low, which is, according to Alex, is one of the best leading indicators, saying all systems on go. We take a look at that chart of the S&P 100, the percentage of stocks above their 200-day moving average. And we can find that it's still between the range of 55 and 65. Actually, between 50 and 65 is a range within which we can be buying stocks, trading stocks rather, with some confidence, some level of confidence. Once we get above 65%, then we have that confidence level increased to a larger extent. So right now we can be trading, buying and selling stocks during this time, because it's between 50 and 65. Now, before we go to the individual stocks, let me show you Dr. Ehler's stock spotter chart on the S&P, which is, well, the SPDR, which is the ETF for the S&P. Right now, it's calling for a short-term increase in price, all the way up to above 2750, and then a short decline here, bringing us down to range between 266 or so and 272. You can see that the momentum line is above here. In order for you to get a swing trade on it, momentum line should cross down here when we have a cycle trough. Cycle trough is here, momentum line is here. We need to see the momentum line come down. So at this point, we'll probably find that to be true. In any case, I just wanted to show you that. We see it here again, we see it here again. Let's take a look at some individual stocks. What I'll do is, in picking out the individual stocks, I'll go down that shopping list that I sent you. And we start with Align, ALIGN, which is the company that makes those plastic mechanisms for straightening teeth. There must be a lot of people with crooked teeth in this world, because look at the stock. Stock's been running. It's now at 318.54. And we have a seasonal trade when we lengthen the holding period to 56 days from 4.7 to 6.2. So this thing might have a little ways to run. In any case, that's a line. Let's take a look at another one. Here's Microsoft. This is the daily chart. We can see we have an uptrend, the 4 above 9, 9 above 30, parabolic below the most recent bar. I own this one. We can see that MACD is slightly above the zero line in bullish territory, and RSI 12 and the other two indicators here looking to be in bullish territory. I still own Microsoft. Apple, after this breakout, I should say, where the 4 crossed above the 9, 9 above 30, and we have this rally here after Buffett announced what he was buying, and he bought a lot of Apple. Well, now we have a consolidation period, and it seems as though we might be going into a bit of a squeeze here on the Bollinger Band. So Apple might have a ways to run and to pick up steam again. All these indicators here are showing up pretty good. Here's my MasterCard. The chart, the daily chart looks a lot like Apple. Rally here, consolidation here. And it seems like it's going into a squeeze like Apple, and it may be looking to set up for another move up. Here's NVIDIA. NVIDIA had a nice rally here, pulled back into the buy zone, had a bullish engulfing candle, and seems to be moving up a bit here. Again, seem to be going into a squeeze as well. The other indicators down here look pretty good. MACD is below the zero line though, and but I like the fact that the RSI, that Williams is above the 50, and the sum of the rate of change is above 4. So that's a good looking chart. Here's XLK, ETF of technology, and they include many of the well-known technology stocks. So it rallied here, very much like what we've seen in the other stocks, in the individual stocks, and then it's consolidated. Bullish candle here. These indicators are looking pretty good, just like MasterCard, for example. Here's Netflix. I own some calls on it. There's 330 calls expiring in July, I believe. Yeah, July 20th. And those are up nicely, about 65% gain so far. So that's looking good. Look at the other indicators down here. They're looking pretty good. All 3 or 4 of them. Here's Visa. As you know, I keep holding Visa. It's been trending up. It's consolidated here for a bit. Bullish candle here, hitting the parabolic, so it might pull back a little bit here, but we have somewhat of a squeeze on the Bollinger Bands. These indicators don't look too bad to me. They look as though they're still holding nicely. So I like Visa. Here's Costco. I have some calls on it. I have the June 15 calls. However, what I'm seeing here is a bearish divergence of MACD on the daily chart. So we have prices going high, new highs, whereas on MACD we had this lower high. So we have this divergence of MACD. I think I'm going to get rid of it on Monday morning bright and early. I have a little bit of a gain. There was more of a gain when it rallied here, but now it's pulled back a bit, so I'll get rid of it. There's CRISPR. As you know, I own a fair amount of it. It broke out of the triangle and kept going. It hit the upper Bollinger Band and pulled back a little bit here. There's a doji. We can start putting some stop loss orders in if you own it, but frankly, I like the technology so much, I think I'm just going to keep a watch on it. But I still own a lot of it. And here's Adobe. Still like it a lot, still own it, own shares. And so here's a nice bullish candle here, and we consolidate a bit here. We're coming to the end of the 15-minute period, so let's take one more. Here's Facebook, daily chart. Had a nice run up here, and it consolidated a bit, had a nice bullish engulfing candle, and is now consolidating again. I still own it. I own some shares. Here's a new one, GW Pharmaceuticals. Apparently they're into making some pharmaceuticals using marijuana or extracts, and they have approval. I think we're going to have to end here, but keep an eye on this one. Have a nice weekend. I hope you did.